Reacher is finally back after just over a year's wait, and based on Lee Child's 7th book in the series, which is called Persuader, within the first 3 episodes we saw Mr. Reacher, Reacher, in Abbotsville, Maine as a ghost from his past was at the epicenter of the organization that he was looking to bring down. With a fantastic first episode that threw us straight back into the show where I genuinely questioned Reacher's intentions for a moment. In the first 3 episodes there was death, double-crossing, blackmailing, and the foundations of an epic battle that's going to be on the horizon. So with that, let's dive into the first 3 episodes and break down all that there was to take away from it. Here is Reacher Season 3, Episodes 1, 2, and 3, Ending Explained. The first 3 episodes of this season were all about establishing the different arcs that are going to be taking place at the core of the story. In fact, the entire first episode kind of reminded me of the beginning of Season 2 when Reacher got involved in a fight on the street. But as we saw with this one, it was all staged and a part of a wider plan, and I'm glad it was. I was genuinely questioning Reacher in the opening section because it felt like the character had changed dramatically from the ending of Season 2 with the way that he was acting. The fact that he killed a cop, he was stealing cars, and also he was killing people and causing a commotion in the middle of the street. It just didn't add up. But once we saw Reacher rescuing Richard Beck and him eventually being hired by his father Zachary Beck, we found out that Reacher was working with FBI agent Duffy so that he could look to work out what operation was being carried out within Beck's company called Bizarre Bazaar. Bizarre Bazaar was this rug company that we were led to believe was a front for an operation that could be linked with the distribution of narcotics, but we didn't actually find out what the product was, and I think that's going to be at the core of this season. The questioning around what it is. Even Richard Beck, Zachary's son, didn't know the ins and outs of the operation. All he knew was that his father wasn't the boss that Reacher thought he was, and the person that was the main target for the FBI. Zachary Beck was originally more of a legitimate businessman that just flexed his connections with the importing and exporting of his rugs, which meant that he had a more speedy and efficient way of getting them through customs, and it also meant that they didn't get searched as much through security. Something which the actual big boss, Julius McCarp, wanted to get a hold of and adopt because it meant that he'd be able to operate his business and distribution methods in a more efficient manner without the risk of being caught by the authorities. Julius managed to get a hold of this distribution system by kidnapping Richard and blackmailing Zachary into using it as a front in order for the safe return of his son. This took place 5 years prior to the present day, and we saw that the likes of Paulie, the massive security guard, was the person that actually cut off Richard's ear and beat him to a pulp. It kinda gave the illusion that the likes of Zachary and Richard are actually prisoners in their own home, because everybody that lives with them, works with them, and is said to be protecting them is there because they're loyal to Julius, and they want to ensure that his operation goes smoothly. So realistically, since Richard was kidnapped 5 years ago, they've been hostages ever since. This was seen most when Zachary wanted to go on a mission to get the people that he believed tried to kidnap his son because he wasn't aware that it was part of Reacher and the FBI's plan for him to get inside. And Zachary said that he wanted to show them that nobody messes with his son. But Duke responded and said, nobody messes with McCarp's business, showing where his true loyalty lied, despite the fact that he was Beck's number 2. Beck being the public face of the company and the person that's on everybody's radar whilst Julius lies in the shadow just watching and making sure everything runs smoothly. It shows that Beck is the person that's there to take the brunt of it all if it comes crumbling down. We didn't find out much about Julius, but we heard that he was pretty much a ruthless killer and nobody wanted to be on the wrong side of him. I mean, considering what he did to Richard to make sure that he got what he wanted, he's prepared to do some terrible things. And also, the fact that he's got the likes of Paulie working for him and had Angel and Duke, who were terrible people. I imagine he's somebody that you definitely don't want to get on the wrong side of. Within Bizarre Bazaar, we saw that there were a few different things that Reacher and the FBI wanted to find out and get to the bottom of. Reacher wanted to get to Francis Xavier Quinn, who was originally a lieutenant colonel in the army, and Reacher investigated him over a decade ago because he was selling military secrets to hostile nations. However, with him now seeming to be a part of the Bizarre Bazaar operation, Reacher wanted to finally get him to pay for the damage and devastation that he caused, and also the betrayal. Plus, as well as that, we saw that FBI agent Duffy had a CI, a confidential informant called Teresa that was originally relaying information about what was going on behind closed doors. But she went off the grid, and nobody had heard from her in quite a while. However, Reacher saw that she was being kept in the cellar and she was being kept alive, as there was food down there. We don't know for what reason, but we know that her being kept alive is something that's valuable for them. It wouldn't surprise me if it's because maybe she has some connections in some way. For example, Richard was kept alive because Julius wanted something, and now he could be doing the same. Right at the end of episode 3, we saw that Reacher actually killed Duke because he knew that if he wanted to get any more information out of Zachary, he needed to become his number 2. Something which he achieved by staging a massive shootout, making out like Duke was caught in the crossfire, by framing Angel, who he knew was dead, and also by saying that Bellinger and Sklar were involved as well. Reacher has now earned the trust of Zachary Beck, but I feel it's going to soon come out that Beck is probably only linked in this organization because he fears for his life, and also, importantly, his son's life, the person that he seems to care about most in the world. I actually kinda like the bromance and older brother attitude that Reacher has been having towards Richard. Reacher has never liked to bully, and he can see that Richard can't really defend himself and is somebody that's just been caught in the middle of all this. With Reacher now being Beck's number 2, I imagine we're going to see him getting more hands-on with the operation, and he'll get closer to finding out the location of Teresa and exactly what Francis Xavier Quinn is doing. I also think Elliot, who's keeping an eye on Cooper, is going to end up maybe dying or making a massive mistake which will allow Cooper to run free. This is due to him previously letting the team down before and the way that it seems like Cooper is scheming. My review of the episodes. I thought these first 3 episodes of the show were really strong. Reacher has definitely been missed, and I'm so glad it's back on our screens. I like the whole double bluff element that the show gave us with the opening scene, and the fact that Reacher was acting in a way that we'd never really seen him before. Even the whole Russian roulette thing caught me off guard. I was like, this definitely isn't the Reacher that I know. But having it all explained to us in the second half of the episode made it a good reveal, and I thought it was a good twist. One thing that I like about Reacher is that every time there's a new season, we get a new bunch of characters, other than the likes of Neely, who's appeared in every season. And so far, I'd say that these characters were easy to get on board with, easy to follow, and they felt so well fleshed out. I thought it was quite a bold move in killing the likes of Duke and Angel so early on, because I thought there'd be a wider feud that would eventually end up playing out, especially between Reacher and Duke. But I suppose the main feud that we're going to be seeing unfolding will have Paulie in it, something that I think is going to be epic when we witness it on screen. One thing that I'd say that these first few episodes didn't have was a ton of fighting in them, but I thought when the scenes would play out, they were choreographed really well. Alan Ritchson, who plays Reacher, said how he was a bit disappointed with the fight scenes in Season 2, and that he spoke with the team and he said that he wanted them to be better this time round, and I feel like we're already seeing signs of that. Reacher is definitely a show that's corny with its dialogue, but I feel like they can get away with it in this show. It's like Arnie in The Terminator. Some of the dialogue is just so rigid and cliche, but when it's said in the right way, it just works and it makes you laugh. Another thing that I'd say that I really liked about these first 3 episodes is the way that it looked. It just seemed to be so much more glossy, and it felt like there was a higher budget, and some of the shots felt so much more stylistic. When compared to Season 1, it looks levels above what we had visually, so it's nice to see that progression. Season 1 is probably my favourite season. It was intimate, the story was strong, the performances lived up to it, and it was just a thrilling ride. But I'd say after the first 3 episodes of Season 3, I feel like this has the potential to live up to that, so I'm definitely excited. So, there you have it. Reacher Season 3 Episodes 1, 2 and 3 ending explained.